Thanks for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast. If you like what you hear today, be sure to follow it, like it, rate it, share it aggressively amongst friends. Also, be sure to follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for regular updates about upcoming guests. Today, we're brought to you by Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee. Be sure to check out their state-of-the-art dealership next to BJ's and Big Y on Memorial Drive, or go to metrojeep.com and make it Metro. And then drive home in your new Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram today.
It's Baxie's Musical Podcast.
It's easy to see why someone who might not know any better could romanticize the idea of getting the band back together and going on the road. You get in a van or a bus with all your buddies, driving your stuff from city to city to wow your screaming legion of adoring fans. On paper, it sounds great. The reality is, you might be crammed in the same van or bus, locked up in unsolvable traffic with your bandmates for hours at a time. Tired, hungry, occasionally in need of a bathroom, possibly staying in dumpy roadside motels, just to play music at poorly promoted venues for an hour and a half a day. And while that still sounds great, it also means you have 22 and a half hours to kill every single day. Being on the road ain't for everybody, but for those who do it, you sometimes have to find creative ways of passing the time. For legendary guitarist Brian Baker, he's just released a brand new book of photographs that he's taken on the road over the last several years. The name of the book is called The Road. These aren't just merely photographs taken on tour buses or from backstage. These are pictures that Brian took of many of the unusual things he's seen and discovered across America and across the world. Items and places that caught his attention simply because of their uniqueness or because of the lack of context. The result is a book that documents the things that lie off the beaten path, away from the crowds. It's a book that looks beyond the amber waves of grain to show that America and other places are loaded with weird and beautiful stuff if you're willing to open up your eyes and take a look around. So who is Brian Baker? Well, if you know, and you don't need me to tell you about it. But if you don't, then let me see if I can briefly catch you up to date. Since 1981, Brian Baker has gone from being an original member of the band Minor Threat, one of the most important and influential hardcore bands in history. He was also a founding member of the pop-punk band Dag Nasty, also original member of Samhain with Glen Danzig, formerly of the Misfits. He spent time playing in bands like the Meatmen and Government Issue, and in the late 80s, the hard rock band Junkyard. But since 1984, Brian Baker has been a member of Bad Religion. Having turned down an offer to join REM, he's still with them even till today. He's also been a member of the punk rock supergroup cover band Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, as well as having played on countless sessions over the last 45 years. Brian Baker is the real deal, a true punk rock legend. And as a fan, it was a pleasure to have him as my guest today on Baxie's Musical Podcast. I appreciate you doing this.
Sure.
You know, I've been Brian Baker supportive for an awful long period of time, and I got the book, and I've gone through it, and I really enjoyed it. And I think the reason why I enjoyed it is, you know, for years I would go on these long family cross country road trips with family, and like 16, 17 hours on the road from Massachusetts, Wisconsin, or Virginia, North Carolina, and one of them I always loved was pulling over and getting out of the car because to me the destination wasn't always the best stuff you see, and there was always other stuff to see. And I get the feeling that probably isn't that much different for you.
No, it's not. And just to use that road trip analogy, like driving from Boston to Detroit, and you pull over to get gas somewhere, and you're also in the suspended animation because you're not where you're going to be. You're just kind of floating in this parallel world. And when something catches your eye, it really sticks with you. And so, a sign for like lamb carcass, and you're in Kenosha and you're trying to go to Minneapolis, it's fun. I don't know, something, it makes it more interesting or makes it jump out more, I think, when you're not where you're supposed to be.
I remember, driving like on 90 West going through Indiana, and there's a fireworks store, but also sells martial arts supplies at the same time. And I'm thinking, man, what a great place this would be. Explosives and weapons at the same time.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're doing a thriving business right now.
I'm sure they are. You
This is their time.
Yeah, right. If there's ever been a time to combine both passions, now is it.
Yeah, it is.
You've been taking these pictures on your phone for years, and there's a great quirkiness to these pictures in the sense that, I mean, you're looking for things that capture your attention, and it could be things that are unusual or things that are maybe seem out of place or whatever it may be. How would you describe the things that are catching your eye, and specifically for this book?
Well, I mean, anything that isn't supposed to be there, an anomaly is, I think, how I refer to it, but that's a bad religion word. I mean, what this is like just the wrong the wrong place at the wrong time is kind of what grabs me. And when I started taking these, which was the first time I got a phone with a camera in it, which is like 2007, I think. It wasn't until the last couple of years that I was looking for shit to take pictures of. This is all just things that I could not avoid taking a picture of, something that would just jump out. And basically that's it. Just like, why is this here? Why are they selling fireworks and martial arts supplies at the same time? And again, too, this was like, I wasn't compiling these things for future distribution. This is just my weird life, my day.
So what made you decide to put this in the form of a book?
It was my wife's idea. She had been telling me, she's in the arts, and she does, and she'd say, these pictures are really good. Someone might want to see them. I'm like, who cares? I play guitar, honey. That's my job. But after enough cajoling, she actually, she's very encouraging, and a good friend of ours is an actual fine arts photographer who was interested in book design and made a mock-up just to show me, like, hey, if you ever wanted to do this, this might be cool. And I looked at it and was like, oh my God, you're right, because I had help from a professional. And I'm like, this is the same thing as early punk rock. It's like, we didn't know how to make records, but fortunately there was a guy in town who was really into recording music. And that's how, in our hardcore scene in DC, that's why there was a Discord Records, because there was one man, Don Zantara, who built a studio and was like, I want to record your weird music. And this was the same opportunity to me. Like, I had no pretensions of being a photographer, but someone who was one said, hey, this could be cool. And so to top it all off, I just happened to be in a band with a guy who owns a publishing company and has put out photo books in the past. So there was that little leg up too, I think that's really why you're holding a book now, the real story.
There's no explanation, which is open to interpretation and the context of every shot. Like, the picture is the thing that tells the story, which, by the way, makes it a much faster read than anything Greg Graffin's ever written. But having said that,
he's trying to share information. I'm really just kind of like, I'm more casual about it.
Yeah, but tell me about the decision not to include a narrative or explanation to of these pictures.
Well, I have been taken over the years with all these different bands I've been in, and all of these songs that I've written or been part of. How many people get completely different meanings out of these songs, even if the lyrics are very clear? My earlier lyrics are like, "Don't do this, stop it," and someone would say, that told me that I should do things, and I shouldn't stop doing things. And I'm like, wild how people have they take different meanings and they interpret songs in these different ways. And I decided I didn't want to leave a roadmap for these photographs. And also, it seemed kind of boring in a photograph with a static image to be like, this is a picture of Jay Bentley from Bad Religion holding, Dusty Hill's bass in France in 2013. It's just, I thought it was more interesting to just have a picture of Jay holding a white fuzzy bass from the Legs video with no explanation as to how it got there. It seemed more fun.
When you put together a book like this and you're choosing photographs off your phone, does the book say more about you being on the road, or does it say more about you and how you look at the particular things on the road? Or is it a combination of both?
I guess it's a combination. I haven't really thought about it. I mean, it really is, these photos, a lot of them were about communication. It would be that someone in my touring party, because I've been touring a really long time, and now we've got 12, 13 people with us, because someone's got to do the hard stuff. I can't be carrying an amp at 60.
Not at our age, we can't. Hell no.
No, sir. And so a lot of this is just like, where are you? And I take a picture of the church that I know is next door to the concert venue. Oh, he's next door. That means sound check will be at 4. Or I'm hungry and I just take a picture of a cheeseburger.
Right.
It's even lazier than texting. And so that's how a lot of these photos were really just communicating with people that I travel with.
You mentioned that you've been doing this for a million years. I mean, 40 some odd years. I mean, you're virtually your entire life. I mean, how has it changed for you? I mean, it's one thing to be touring with, Minor Threat at 16 years old, and it's another thing to be touring, with Bad Religion at 59, 60. I mean, how has it changed for you? Is it easier? Is it harder? How would you describe it?
Well, I don't think it's certainly not harder, but when you can take a lot of hits when you're 15 through 25, like my early work. So I don't think I could sustain that now, because it's hard to drive 48 hours in a van to play someplace, to play a storage container in Salt Lake City. Like, you're just not as motivated. The spirits are not as high. But in general, it's similar. I think it's really the similarities between the two are the most important thing, which is that this crazy punk rock world, there are people every day who are discovering this. And I go to shows, I play shows, but I also go to shows at home in New Jersey where these people who were the same age I was when I was starting out, they are doing something that is incredibly powerful and valid. And it's not based on my template. These people aren't, I'm sure they know who Minor Threat is, but that's not their roadmap. They're making their own way. They're creating their own scenes. They have their own dialogue being created. And that's what is so beautiful about it. The similarities rather than the differences in, the Grandpa tour versus when I was little.
I pulled out my Minor Threat album over the weekend, and I bought this many, many years ago, and it's still in pretty damn good shape. And then I lyric sheet, which I hadn't seen in years. And I said,
we used to do that.
You and I know. Well, that was the best part about albums, is like you could pull shit out, like, all the Dead Kennedy stuff, all the inserts in there were just absolutely genius. But I'm looking at the lyric sheet and I'm looking at the pictures, and it's different when you're looking at this like in 1983 for the very first time. I said, oh yeah, these are my guys. But at almost 60, I'm looking like, oh my God, they're children. Who's responsible for this?
Nobody. That was the crazy thing. I think about my parents, like, what were they thinking? Like, hey, you're 15, 16, you want to get in a van with a couple of 18-year-old dudes we kind of know and drive to California? Like, I mean, it was a much gentler time.
Sure, of course. But
straight edge can only get you so far.
Well, I thought about that. I said, well, no wonder you guys were straight edge. There's not a liquor store in America that would have sold beer to you guys. Of course you were straight edge.
It was handy, yeah, I will say that.
As you know, time kind of dictates, how we, look at our history and our lives. And Minor Threat is still seen as one of these wildly influential and important bands. But the truth is, it lasted 3 years, and you did like 30 songs, maybe even less than that. And yet it still resonates after all this time. Why do you think that is? What do you think it is about Minor Threat that is so important to people even after all this time?
Well, it certainly helps that we never reformed to ruin everything.
Right.
I mean, that's nice. So you have this sort of, frozen in aspic situation, but it's also lightning in a bottle. It was this spark, this thing that happened quick and burnt out. The lack of a lot of records means there's not a lot of bad songs. Pretty much all of them are good.
Yep.
Not overexposed. The myth is greater than, the reality of it in a lot of ways. And it was a really good band. I mean, we had all the things going for us. It was recorded in a really cool way. And just the recordings themselves, independent of the music, the sounds that were captured, which were, I won't say accidentally, because Don Zantara, who was our mentor there, knew what he was doing, but it was definitely experimental. And it happens that those tones are ones that people kept using and building on. So it's a familiar platform. So it's just a really happy combination of things, I think, that meld together to why it's significant.
I think the other part of it is, and I mentioned straight edge, but the reality of that part of it is that Minor Threat, Fugazi, Ian, all you guys have all kind of conducted yourselves in a very, with a lot of integrity. Like that's like the one thing you can say about you guys, there was integrity rippling through that river for forever. And I think, that is such a rarity in any business. Never mind just music, but just in any business to have that kind of integrity and to continue it. I'm sure offers all the time. Minor Threat back together again and record. But you're right. Why ruin the memory of something like part of the equation is really important.
Well, also, we're not minors anymore. And that was a big part of it. I mean, it's right there in the name, once you're once you age out of this.
You don't think Elderly Threat would sell a lot of merch?
Well, first of all, it would be Senior Threat. It's not like we haven't thought it through.
All right.
Of course.
Right, of course.
We have weight options in the past. There's some people. I mean, yeah, it's just it's not even a conscious thing, really. It's just let this thing be its own thing. It's really it. There's no real temptation. And yeah, of course, people over the years many times want to do this and that. But no, I mean, this is, this was foundational for the people who are in the band to then move on and do other things. And why, the whole part of this journey, I think, is to keep being curious and trying to do new things and not just, lay back on this triumph of your teenage years at 60 is not as interesting to me as writing new music and being in all these weird bands that I'm in and, talking to weirdos in Boston. This is fun for me.
No, hey, listen, no offense taken at all.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But, but I would imagine though, because I mean, you're right. I mean, here you are, you're 60 years old. I mean, I remember buying the Minor Threat records and the Dag Nasty, records in the 80s. And I'm sure you hear this all the time about this resume that you've built. Is it weird to keep having that discussion? I mean, I know you've done so much more than just all of that and continue to do more. Is it a pain for you to have to go through, like, to regurgitate all that stuff over and over again?
Oh, dear God, no, it's a privilege. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, what would be much worse is nobody giving a shit. And this is, I'm incredibly grateful for this journey and all of its ups and downs and weird lefts and rights. And I'm fascinated and grateful that I'm still talking about it at all. So no, it's never a burden. It's just like I get the question a lot because I've been in Bad Religion for 32 years now. I'm the new guy for 32 years. And we get a lot of questions, do you ever get tired of playing the big Bad Religion songs, American Jesus or, Digital Boy, these songs everyone knows? I'm like, no, it's the best to keep playing that. When you see the way people react to that, how it's their song. And the reason why they're big songs for us is because most people like them. There's nothing wrong with playing a popular song, and sharing that with people live is so cool. It's never boring. It's always electrifying to do that. And, to a lesser degree, just talking about this whole history is still a bunch of fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I learned something new I'd forgotten about. I mean, it's just there's no loss to this.
I mean, one thing to say in one great historically relevant band, you've been in more than one. I mean, Bad Religion is a perfectly great example of that. I mean, you've been in it since 1994. You've been with them ever since. But how did that opportunity even come up for you? How did you even get approached by this?
Well, I was a Bad Religion fan, and I'm also kind of a self-starter. And I was at a point I was living in Los Angeles, and I was friendly with both Brett Gurewitz and Greg Hetson, who are the two guitar players in Bad Religion. And independently of each other, I told them many times, hey, if the other guy splits, give me a call. Just hedging my bets.
Sure.
I mean, I'm Mr. Vegas over here. And what happened was Brett split and Hetson called me and said, hey, Brett split. Do you want to come? And I'm like, absolutely. So I wanted to be in that band. I was really, I got into them late. It's so weird. Like I was familiar with them as a kid. Like they were contemporaries of Minor Threat, and I had their first couple of records, but it was their 1993 release, Recipe for Hate, was the record where I went, Jesus Christ, man, if I had not, if I had kept Dag Nasty going, or I just looked at it as this, like, fuck, I wish I aspired to something like this, of that quality. And so I got more actively trying to insert myself into it because it's a small, the punk thing is a small community. Everybody knew each other. And so I was just kind of putting my card on the table, like, if you need any help, I'm familiar with the material. I have a pretty good resume,
Right. We've all met. We all know each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're all friends.
but to be, I mean, 1994 is 31, 32 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it always seems like Bad Religion is always on the road somewhere. It's a
Yeah.
pretty intense commitment to be part of Bad Religion. I mean, because to keep doing this after all this time, any band that lasts more than like 5 or 6 years is sometimes just like a miracle. Here we are talking 40 years into this, and the band is still together.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This is crazy. And we're best friends. We love doing this, and we don't tour as much as you think we do. We're also, we're pretty good at, I probably play 50 shows a year, which is not that much. It's just how you spread them out. And we've
Right.
learned over the years, how do you do this? Well, we can't play 5 days in a row anymore. We have to do things that maintain the health of the group, because no one wants to see people who are on stage who don't want to be there, but especially if they're really old. It's the worst. You don't
Right.
want to see old, pissed off dudes. And how do you not be pissed off? Well, you make it so when you're playing, it's fun. And what's fun for us is a couple shows, a day off, maybe go do some sightseeing, a couple of shows, maintain this. The relationship between the members is still the most important thing. And I think that translates to what you see on stage. If you still respect what you do and the guys you play with, I think that other people will respect you when they see it. And so far, so good. If we're not good anymore, we're not going to do it anymore. I mean, that's the other thing. You got to know your sell by date. And if you're not, if this is not joy that you're sharing, then I don't know. I don't think it's worth seeing.
But you still have a pretty active, loyal audience too, which wants to see Bad Religion. That's also another part of the equation too.
It's just if I believed in God, I would say we were blessed, but sadly the atheist in me has to look for more logical explanations. But the simple thing is that we are very fortunate that we are a number of people's favorite band. We're their band, just like the Damned are my band, and I will go see the Damned every single time I can see the Damned, because that's it. They are my thing, and Bad Religion is that way to enough people to be able to play all over the world. And what an incredible deal that is. Just how cool is that?
Of course, the Damned have the benefit of so many former members too, that if someone doesn't feel like playing, they can go to somebody else who could pick up the slack.
Well, I'm not going to say Bad Religion is all original members either, but things happen.
Sure.
Drummers wear out, but
Sure.
I think the Damned we're seeing now is my favorite Damned, because we're seeing the Black Album Damned. The era when I became conscious, 1980, was when I went punk, and that was the record. So I'm getting it all.
I interviewed Rat Scabies a couple years ago, and he was great, and he had just done something with Alfie Agnew from DI, and it was a project called Professor and the Madman. And I asked, how did he meet? And they met at an ugly Christmas sweater part. That can't possibly be true. And they both confirmed
why
it.
not?
Of course, they both
And why
confirmed.
not?
That made me laugh so freaking hard. I thought that was great.
Yeah, and totally on brand. I've got to see that Agnew movie, which I can't stream it yet. But I really am interested in seeing that. The whole Agnew family is very influential and cool, and I kind of know them a little bit. I don't know Alfie, but I've met Frank, and I know Rick a bit.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
Alfie's absolutely hilarious. And, again, another punk guy with a PhD. Go figure that.
Little known fact, when I tried out for Bad Religion, the only other guy they were thinking about was Frank.
Really? Wow.
So I got in there first. Yeah, I did.
Good for you.
I've got trouble. There's trouble. There's a guy who's really good who they're thinking about too.
Boy.
So I have to be extra. Yeah, I had to be extra more better.
I keep reading about Bad Religion coming up with new music, and that's been kind of a story that's been hanging there for a good long period of time. What's the reality of that? Where do things stand? Is there new stuff coming out, or is that something that's just going to be delayed for a while?
There's half a record now. The problem is that we're not going to put out a record that's not really good. It has to be good, and we don't need to sustain the band by putting out material. And I think it's important that we don't let ourselves down. And writing is in spurts, and there's a lot to write about now. But it's a really, some of these records take a long time to make. This is a really slow process, and we've been, I mean, it's just, it'll happen when it's right, is my best guess.
Yeah.
Just I've been doing this for a long time with these guys, and sometimes there can be this spurt of creativity, and all of a sudden I've got 15 songs in my inbox to decide, what do you guys think of this? So it'll happen, but it's just not tonight.
Right. No, I understand. I understand. Probably not. Probably not before like St. Patrick's Day or something like that, or maybe Easter. So
Right.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
You've been involved in so many other bands, Government Issue, Samhain. All these things. I want to ask you about is one that I feel like it doesn't get enough attention, and that is your time with the Meatmen and Tesco V.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Playing with that band. I know it was a short period of time.
The Meatmen, Tesco is a performance artist, and the
Yeah.
Meatmen is one of his bits. And I was in the Meatmen kind of I was friends with Tesco, and it was not, this was not what I would call a full-time job. And I was kind of pretending to go to college at the time, and it was fun. And the Meatmen are fun. And I have to say, I loved it, and I think those records hold up. I think they're great. Obviously the humor is dated somewhat. There's some trouble spots in what Tesco was singing about. But that's just a product of the time, which, God, I hear that so much. Well, it was a product of its time. They say that, but that's a fucking excuse.
It's an excuse, but if you slapped on, pick
Wine Wenches and Wheels, for instance,
or One Down, Three to Go. That was, there's a couple there that might be cancelable. Maybe.
Yeah, I would say so. But remember also, this is a punk rock band, and this is also when punk rock was, part of the job was to be provocative and fucked up.
Yeah,
and
right.
This definitely was the case with the media. So, I don't know. Tesco is just such an auteur and is such a fun dude, and he's, this is just. I had a great time doing it. I take nothing back. Wish I had that guitar on the back of the War of the Superbikes record still. I really miss that guitar, but I sold it to Tom Lyle from Government Issue.
Okay.
Who still has it.
And
so I know where the guitar is.
Haven't been able to buy it back from him, huh?
He's not selling it. No way. No, that's Tom's guitar now. But
so when you were doing all of this in the very thick of the beginning part of it, I remember the 80s very, very well. And I remember the reaction of parents. And it was like some parents would rather have their kids play with guns than than turn punk. Like it was, I remember Phil Donahue episodes dedicated to this. There was made for TV movie where, Bernie Capel from was like, what happens when your kid's punk? What was the reaction of your parents back then to all of this?
Well, I live with my mom. My parents were divorced, and I had there was a loose parenting style, kind of a product of that sort of hippie era. And my parents were both, they were both in television. So they were, creative types. And we lived in Washington, D.C., which is an incredibly liberal and sort of, quasi-intellectual kind of, I don't know. I would definitely say my upbringing was perfect for punk because I was not on any kind of a schedule or a timetable. This was not a family that sat down to eat dinner. This was not, I was kind of left on my own recognizance. And so I didn't really see what the fuss was about. Also, I guess, when I was younger, especially, it's not this straight edge ideology was something that we were preaching or practicing with any vigor. It was just, we weren't getting fucked up. And when I would go out at night on a weekend with my friends, my mother knew that we weren't crashing cars or involved in dangerous situations because all we basically were doing was like hanging out at a 7-Eleven eating Hostess fruit pies or, walking around a graveyard and talking about the damned. Like we were having, for the lack of a better term, these are pretty wholesome pursuits. Even though we looked weird, we weren't toxic. We weren't doing damage. And I think that's so there was a lot of freedom afforded us that way. And I think that's also why seeing these Youth Gone Wild, seeing Jimmy Gestapo on Donahue was so hilarious to us because these were just our friends. They didn't, the big brother didn't realize all we were doing was like, aggressively dancing. And the worst thing we could get is hearing damage. It was just not.
It's like, you're seeing like, Jello Biafra being asked, well, what's so wrong about your landlord? Like, it's like did anyone possibly take that shit seriously? But yeah, people did. They were like they were horrified by it and completely missed the satire that he was trying to portray.
Yeah, well, it's also because people are stupid.
Yeah.
And they don't understand art. And look where we are today.
Thank goodness for that. So besides, Bad Religion, the book, what else are you involved with? I know you don't really sit around very much. You stay pretty active and busy. What's going on with you now?
What's going on right now is I have a big tour of Canada. Bad Religion and Offspring are doing a cross Canada tour at the smartest time of year for it, January and February. From
Perfect.
Nova Scotia to Vancouver. So now what I've heard is that they understand that it's cold up there. They're used to it. So I don't think it's really going to impact our ability to have people come to the shows, but that's a big winter tour for us. And I love playing with the Offspring. They're really fun and they play these huge venues up there. And so I'll go do my 45 minutes and then, keep it separated myself, watch them do it. So I'm excited about that. I have my band Fake Names, which is a band I am in with Dennis from Refused is the singer. And it's a bunch of guys from DC I grew up with, members of SOA and Girls Against Boys. And now we've got Mario from Rocket from the Crypt and Off is drumming for us. We have a new record coming out on Epitaph this summer.
Oh, great.
We recorded it a few months ago in Chicago at Steve Albini's old studio, Electrical Audio. And it's brand new full length, and I think it's really cool. And so I'm going to have to play some shows around that for sure. And I think Dennis's Refused arc is about to end. He's been doing his final shows with that incredibly awesome band for the last year or so. So it'll be fun to get out and do that. And then there's more Bad Religion. What would summer be without, a trip to Europe or some kind of Bad Religion nonsense? So,
it's no summer at all.
Yeah.
Might as well be winter again.
Exactly. Might as well be in Nova Scotia on February 5th. But,
Right.
So it just keeps going.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm glad you're doing it. There's so much you're involved in. It's so cool. And like I said, the book is really cool to look, really cool to sift through. Really interesting stuff.
I thank you so much. I'm glad people seem to really dig it. And I just love it because it's such an Easter egg. Like I didn't see this coming and I wasn't trying to do it. And just because of a bunch of good friends, this thing is now real. And all of a sudden, like Graffin's like, hey, so we got 2 published authors. I'm like, is it really an author if it's just pictures? He's like, oh yeah, it's a book because he knows because he's written 4 of them, So I love it. It's just it's been fun, and I've been doing book talks, people talking about the pictures with people, and that's been fun too. It's just I'm really, really grateful, and I hope for more.
Yeah, Brian, this has been a blast. I've had a great time talking to you, and I hope down the road
man.
we can do it again sometime.
I'm happy to be. I will talk to you anytime.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Great.
Except for 11 o'clock p.m. on Tuesdays. Then I got
and then through all of January and February.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you speak Canadian.
Yeah.
Cool.
Brian, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bax. Talk to you later.
All right, take care now. The name of Brian Baker's new book is called The Road, now available on Akashic Books. Keep your eyes open for tour dates and new music from Bad Religion, hopefully coming out later this year. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can always email me at bax@rock102.com. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks again to Metro Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee for their support. But most of all, thanks to you for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast.